Alright, so I'm going to have a look at the occult significance of the coronation. We'll see this as a little addendum to Part 8. Call it 8A, the occult significance, Part 8A. I know we're all sick of this guy now, but I want to take a look at it. I think there's some interesting things in here that I want to share with you. So let's have a little look at it. So there he was, old Charlie boy. He got his crown eventually. And I'm going to say that this was the second coronation of Charles III. We'll go into why I think it is, or it was, the second coronation of Charles III as we go along here. But it happened on May the 6th, 2023, the day after the the so-called global health emergency was declared as over by the World Health Organization. Very, very interesting timing that. It was the day after the health emergency, so-called, was declared as being over. But I'm sure the WHO will be back with more bad news, particularly regarding their global pandemic treaty. We'll be keeping our eye on that, I'm sure. But the reason I'm calling it the second coronation of Charles III is because I think there's some good evidence that there was one before the 6th of May 2023. And it was this. I went into this a lot in Part 8 of the Occult Significance series. And this is back in January 2020. Charlie boy, Prince of Wales as he was then, with this giant fleur-de-lis above his head. And it's a representation of the fleur-de-lis on his heraldic Prince of Wales achievement. You can see that there. It's a representation of this. So let's blow that up. And it was a representation of this shape here, the fleur-de-lis on his heraldic coat of arms, mixed with this, the Global Goals for Sustainable Development ring. Now, it's a mixture of these two things, but it's not a true representation. The image on the left, the neon fleur-de-lis, if you like, is not a true representation of the Prince of Wales, his heraldic achievement fleur-de-lis. It's not a true representation of that. If it was a true representation of that, then it'll look more like that, with the global gold ring around the three sort of protruding things there, reflecting the crown here, this crown on the actual fleur-de-lis. So it would look like that if it was a true representation. But it didn't look like that. It looked like this in the actual image. And that's really intriguing, that. Were they symbolically sliding the crown off the fleur-de-lis, symbolically removing his Prince of Wales status, ready for his eventual second coronation? Well, it's a very intriguing thought. They're different. These two things are different enough to at least suggest that. And that happened. They crowned him here with this neon fleur-de-lis. They crowned him in January 2020, 22nd of January 2020, just as Saturn and Pluto were becoming conjunct. Actually, they were conjunct at this point, absolutely conjunct. And that neon fleur-de-lis is a mixture of the fleur-de-lis from his heraldic achievement mixed with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. No question that that's what that is. So I'm going to contend that this was his first coronation, and it was his first coronation as global king, crowned with the global goals. And there's obviously a lot of controversy around Charlie boy, particularly over his involvement in the World Economic Forum, etc. And he's there giving this speech with the neon fleur-de-lis above his head at the World Economic Forum 50th annual meeting, or at least a 50th anniversary of the World Economic Forum. And there's some conjecture about him being the big AC, the big Antichrist. I mean, a lot of people since I put up part 8 have been saying, yes, indeed, he is the Antichrist. Well, we'll be having a look at that, I'm sure, as we go along. But there was more controversy around the coronation and the oath that he would swear as he was being crowned. And it was all centered around the oath of him, as kings and queens do, swearing to become defender of the faith. But Charlie Boy wanted to become defender of all faiths, not just the Church of England, which he would normally, the king or queen would swear an oath to become a defender of the Church of England. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to be a defender of all faiths. And that's also a very global thing to do, a very globalist thing to do. There was some concern about whether he would swear the usual coronation oath or whether he would declare himself defender of all faiths. But if we look at a tweet from the royal family, it does say that His Majesty, as he or they like to believe that they are, he swore to govern the people with justice and mercy and to uphold the Anglican Church of England and the Presbyterian Church of Scotland. But, the next paragraph, for the first time at a coronation, His Majesty also prays for grace to be a blessing to all of every faith and belief. So very globalist, very global monarch-like. Some would say that this is a direct sign of him being the big AC, going against tradition, not swearing an oath towards the Church of England, but to all faiths. Very, very intriguing. Also, if we have a little look at this, I'm sure many of you will have seen this by now. It's the Abrahamic family house. Nice structures there. 3 cubes. 3 cubes. Kind of thinking that's what this looks like. And a bit more about this. The Abrahamic family house is an interfaith complex in Abu Dhabi, Sardiat Island. And it's all about bringing together the 3 Abrahamic religions and the places of worship in one place, in one complex, an interfaith complex. So a mosque, a church, and a synagogue, all in one place. But it gets quite interesting when you have a look at the architect commissioned to design and build this, because he, back in 2017, received a royal knighthood. He became a Knight of the Realm. He received royal honours in 2017. And 2 years later, he gets this job. There's no connection there whatsoever, I'm sure. But, yeah, very, very intriguing. And he swore to uphold the Anglican Church of England, the Presbyterian Church of Scotland, but also to be a blessing to all and every faith and belief. So there he was on what I contend was his second coronation, first one being in January 2020, basically saying he was going to be a defender of all faiths. He is also crowned in January 2020 with this ring. We've seen how it's a Saturn ring. It's the Global Goals ring for sustainable development, crowning Charlie Boy, slid off the fleur-de-lis, ready for his global coronation. Very intriguing. But what happened on the day? Let's have a look at the day itself. And, well, what happened? Well, first of all, he hid behind this screen when he was being anointed with the special oils, which were pressed in the Holy Lands of Israel, I believe. Mount of Olives somewhere. Can't remember exactly where. But he hid behind this screen. A very cube-like thing, this. He didn't want to be seen being anointed with the oils, the special oils, the magic oils. So he hid behind a screen. And when you take a look at this screen, it's a bit of a closer look at it. If you go to the royal family website, there's a little bit about it here, the anointing screen. The screen has been gifted for the occasion by the City of London Corporation. The city within the City of London. It's a corporation within the City of London. Very interesting that they should have kind of donated this, gifted this for the occasion. And even more intriguing when you bring up the City of London's emblem here, features some more dragons. Some more dragons. We saw a dragon back in part 8. And these dragons of the City of London, they're everywhere. They're everywhere here. And this here on the shield, this kind of cross looks very much like an upturned cross, if you ask me. I'm not sure whether that's just a coincidence, but it looks like an upturned crucifix. And they gifted this anointing screen. We've got the as above and so below here. There's the trumpet pointing down and the other one pointing up. Very, very as above, so below that. And of course we saw the red dragon in part 8 on Charlie Boy's Prince of Wales heraldic achievement. So dragons seem to follow this guy around, it would seem. Maybe he is the big AC after all. Who knows? We'll have to keep an eye on him. But yeah, the anointing screen was gifted by the City of London Corporation. Features a big tree there. Very, very, very interesting. And then he comes out from behind the screen eventually, and then they put on these. They dress him in these. Well, I don't know, were they curtains? It looks like there's a few people dressed in curtains in this shot. I think this guy's been a bit different now. Looks a bit more like a tablecloth, but I wasn't there, so I can't actually contest that was the case. But then they move a bit of furniture around, and Charlie Boy sits down on the coronation chair here. Ends up sitting down in the coronation chair, and there he is in that coronation chair. It looks like he's having a great time, doesn't it? He looks overjoyed, thrilled to be there, and I found it quite amusing that the band, the orchestra within Westminster Abbey during the coronation, they chimed in with Charlie Boy's mood, because he actually played a song called Tedium. I thought that was quite funny. But there he was, having a whale of a time, and eventually they put the very expensive hat on his royal bonds, and he looks very happy about it. And he's sitting there with just the one glove on, holding these very expensive sticks. And a lot of people said this was very Freemasonic, just the one glove there. I do agree, very, very Freemasonic. Well, it's either Freemasonic or they just couldn't be bothered trying to get the other glove over his sausagey fingers. I mean, it did take them a while to get the first one on, and I think they just gave up. Just thought, you know what, we can't be bothered putting the other one on. Your fingers are too sausagey, mate. We're just going to leave you there with one glove. But eventually, well, first of all, let's have a look at this. He's sitting on the coronation chair. There it is. There's a bit of a look at the coronation chair. We'll be getting back to this. I think this is quite intriguing. But yeah, eventually he gets up and they swap one of the really expensive sticks for a ball. Now, if you ask me, this is going to be the worst game of stick and ball ever. And, you can see it in Charlie Boy's face. He's very disappointed that he's got these things. Is this all I get? I come all this way and all you give me is a rubbish stick and ball. But, eventually he wanders off. But with this stick and ball in his hands, he wanders off. And what are they? The orb and scepter. What do they represent? Well, it says here, a little bit of a write-up about it. The scepter is a symbol of a monarch's power. The orb and cross represent the power of God, and it's a reminder to the monarch that their authority derives from above. So the scepter is a symbol of the monarch's power below, and the orb is a symbol of the power above. So very as above and so below here. Very, very as above and so below kind of symbolism here. And I think the first time that it was used, both the scepter and the orb together, was by this guy. I think this is Charles II. And I don't know about you, but this kind of reminded me of the Baphomet. I just get a real Baphomet vibe from this picture. I don't know about anybody else, but eventually Charlie Boy he does leave with his ball and stick. He's got him there, and he leaves Westminster Abbey, and eventually he comes out of the entrance there, leaves Westminster Abbey, and he's got the lovely robes on and the very expensive hat, and he's under this canopy, this kind of glass or plastic canopy, because it was a bit rainy on the day, it was a bit wet, and he heads towards the carriage at the end of the passage there. He gives the ball back. He goes, you know what, I don't want that anymore. It's rubbish. It's never going to roll. That big cross stops it from rolling, so you can have it back. And then to get in the carriage, he and his lovely queen get in the carriage, and then there was a lot of waiting around. I was watching this, and there was a lot of waiting around. The commentators had to fill in, saying how lovely the carriage was, what a wonderful gold colour it was, and how the horses were lovely, and wasn't it all great? And they were waiting for this chap to give the signal. They waited for this chap to give the signal. He had to kind of give the shout for the royal carriage to set off back to Buckingham Palace, and eventually he did, gave a bit of a shout, and then off they trotted back to Buckingham Palace. Now, I'm including this picture here because it's time-stamped, and it's time-stamped in the background by what people call Big Ben, big clock tower in London. It's time-stamped there. I was taking print screens from my phone, and then I took a picture of this up close from the TV, and it's 1:10. They left at 1:10 when the big Busby guy gives the cry. But when did they leave for Buckingham Palace? Well, let's have a look at our all-you-need-to-know handy guide. There it says they set off at 10:20. The King and Queen Consort's procession sets off from the palace at 10:20 a.m. on the day. That's also backed up by this BBC article here. It says there they set off at 10:20 BST, British Summer Time, and they returned back to Buckingham Palace through my own timestamp here. It was 1:10. So let's have a closer look at that. We'll have a look at this first. There they are in the very alchemical black carriage, setting off at the beginning of the process, setting off for Westminster Abbey in this black Negredo carriage. You can see Charlie Boy waving at the peasants there in the inset. Time stamped on this BBC article. Let's have a look. They set off at 10:20, 10:20, British Summer Time. Let's timestamp that. There it is. Now, this is when they return. You can see Charlie Boy and his lovely queen in the gold carriage. They've turned it all into gold, very alchemical. And they're returning back to Buckingham Palace. It was meant to be, according to the handy all you need to go know guide, that was meant to be round about 1 p.m. But I timestamped it by taking a print screen, as evidenced in the previous shots that we saw a bit earlier. So it's 1:10. So let's timestamp that. They returned at 1:10 BST. So let's have a look at these two. Let's have a look at what happened. We'll take a look at when they set off first of all, 10:20 BST. And let's do a little bit of as above, so below on it. Let's bring in a chart. There it is, the 10:20 a.m. BST chart, 4 to 6 of May 2023. Right at the beginning of Leo. Right on the cusp of Leo there. Very, very interesting. And what about when they return at 1:10 BST? Well, let's do the same. Bring in the chart. 1:10 p.m. BST. right at the very end of Leo. Very uncanny that that should occur. By accident, I would contest. I would conjecture. A bit of as above, so below intrigue going on here. So there we are. They're the two charts kind of side by side here. Now, at some point in the middle of all this, Charlie Boy gets his crown. And if you just do a little Google about what time it was when he got his crown, well, they say around about 12 noon. Now, let's bring in Charlie Boy there. He's getting his lovely purple hat on there, very expensive purple hat. Let's bring in the chart. It's right in the middle of Leo. There seems to be kind of more than just a, this seems to be more than just a coincidence to me. So let's have a close look at that. There it is, 12 p.m., around about 12 p.m. chart for the 6th of May 2023, right in the middle of Leo. That one when they were setting off, 10:20 a.m. BST, setting off for Westminster Abbey. There it is, right at the beginning. And then he gets crowned right in the middle. And then they leave at 1:10 p.m. BST. And that's when they return, right at the very end of Leo. Very intriguing, I thought. Very, very as above, so below. Uncanny coincidence. And why should all this be kind of important? Why Leo? What's the significance? Well, he was crowned on this chair, and this chair has lions on it. And of course, Leo is represented as a lion in the occult, in astrology. We also have a lion on the Royal Emblem that is now Charlie Boy's emblem. Very, very intriguing. So let's have a closer look at that. He's crowned on this chair featuring lions. There's actually two lions on the Royal Emblem. One to the left, which I believe is the sun pillar on the model. Take a look at previous episodes for that. There's also one at the top, on top of the crown. And if you just bring in a little bit more information about Leo, there's a star called Regulus in the constellation, which the zodiacal sign Leo is derived from that constellation. And the star Regulus gets its name from the Latin word for king. Wow, just uncanny. So yeah, very, very interesting, very intriguing. Also, if you let's just go through that again. They setting off right on the cusp of Leo, and he gets crowned right in the middle of Leo, and then they set off right at the end of Leo, and Regulus is a star in Leo, Latin word for king. Has that got something to do with it, perhaps? Could be. Also, though, if you bring in Charlie Boy's own chart, and I think this is accurate. I've looked around, and this seems to be the general idea that this is his chart. He's got Leo rising. He has also got Leo rising. And the descendant line here, the ascendant and descendant line, very, very close to our 0 degree line. I'm sure it's all just a big coincidence. But if you look at his sun, Charlie Boy's sun, this is his kind of own astrological chart, if you like. I don't usually like doing individual readings. I prefer the kind of mundane astrology, the global astrology. But if you look at his sun, and then you bring in the time when he was crowned, which is around 12 noon, that's when he got this very expensive purple hat. If you bring in the chart, the moon was there in Scorpio at 24 degrees. So his sun is conjunct with the day's moon. And it was almost a full moon. I think it just been a full moon. So it's almost full. His sun conjunct with the day's moon. And that reminded me of John Dee's Monas Hieroglyphica. John Dee, the royal astrologer to Queen Elizabeth I, came up with this Monas Hieroglyphica monad. Very famous astrological occult symbol, this. Very, very intriguing. Also, Charlie Boy's got Pluto rising. And if you see here, see the Pluto rising? It's at 16 degrees there. Now, that is the rising degree when he is crowned. So when he gets this crown, 12 noon, round about 12 noon, that's when that degree of Charlie Boy's Pluto in his own chart is rising. It's the rising degree of Leo. So when he's crowned, his Pluto is rising. Kind of beyond coincidence, this, I think. His Pluto is rising at the moment he is crowned. Very, very as above, so below, this. And when you think about Pluto and a crown, well, I don't know about anybody else, but it makes me think of this, the Kabbalah. If you look here, the crown is Kether on the Kabbalah. This is the crown, Sephira, sphere. And a lot of people in the occult, I think Aleister Crowley vouched for this as well, the great beast himself. He has Kether being ruled by Pluto. So the crown, Sephira, is ruled by, the Sephiroth is ruled by Pluto. Very, very intriguing. Maybe this is a factor. Maybe this is key. And where is Pluto at the moment? Where was Pluto on the day of his second coronation? Well, of course, it's at the 0 degree line on the synchronical model, the model we've been using throughout this occult significance series. And it was there when Charlie Boy gave royal assent to the Genetic Technology Precision Breeding Act. I'm sure it's all just a big coincidence. So I think, given all this, I'm going to update the model. Given that Charlie Boy got a lovely purple, expensive hat on the day, I'm going to give the Baphomet a lovely purple, expensive crown. I did say the Baphomet needed to be crowned, so we're going to chime in here with the purple. He's also a product of the Solar King and the Lunar Queen, and the red Solar King and the blue Lunar Queen. Red and blue make purple, so I think that makes a very, very nice addition to the model. Also, given that we saw back in part 8 that Charlie Boy was crowned with this ring, this corona, it's the Sustainable Development Goals ring. We've seen that depicted as a Saturn ring. So I'm going to bring in the as above, so below here. Going to use the Sustainable Development Goals Saturn ring. We're going to put that on the model now. The as above, so below working very well. Saturning, what would the word be? Saturnizing the world. Saturnifying the world. Can't think of the word, but I think they're saturnizing the world. We'll be getting into a bit more of that as we go along through this series. So the question is, was this his second coronation? Was the January 2020 World Economic Forum annual meeting his first coronation? Very intriguing, all of this, I think. We also have got the question of whether or not Charlie Boy's the big AC. Is he the Antichrist? Well, we'll have to keep an eye on him. We saw him crowned with the 666 back in January 2020. And that was at the World Economic Forum meeting there. And the World Economic Forum logo, and a lot of people will have seen this already, but a lot of people say that this is 666. The ring going through these letters here, the 3 O's there. A lot of people say if you pencil it in, well, it's 666, isn't it? I kind of don't go along with this. It's a little bit of a stretch. They look a bit like sixes. Not too sure whether I want to kind of go for that. But you can still get there. You can still get to the 666 if you want to play around. Because what is the O? What is O that this ring is going through? O is the 15th letter. And this ring, this kind of incomplete ring, is going through 3 of them. So it's going through 3 O's, and O is the 15th letter. So 1 plus 5 is 6. So you still get the 666 without having to make the sort of sort of sixes. So I thought I'd put this in. And it's a lovely 666 there. It's above Charlie Boy's head as well. And we know that the 666 above Charlie Boy's head there is a representation of the global goals. We explored that in part 8. That's also 666. The grid form of the global goals is 3 rows of 6 symbols. So that chimes in very well. And also with the 666, let's have a look at his royal cipher. There's his royal cipher. So that's going to be his emblem now for kind of signing things, stamping things, that sort of thing. And what do we see there? We see the 3 in the R. R, the letter R, is the 18th letter. And there are 3 kind of numerals here to designate that he's the 3rd Charlie Boy. Now, what are they doing there? Well, they're putting 3 into 18. They put 3 in the R. R is the 18th letter. They put 3 into 18. And what is 3 into 18? Well, 3 into 18 is 6. So each one of those numerals there, you could say, is 666. Is Charlie Boy the big AC? Well, we'll have to keep an eye on him. But I think I'm going to leave that there for now. And you'll see me again in part 9.